too dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too dangerous.
So hello everybody. Today is 4th of November 2021. I am with Lee Cant and we're going live regarding really the state of emergency that we're having in the UK right now. So Lee's we're brainstorming really what to do because of the emergencies that we're having on a daily basis. I don't know if you want to know, Lee, but I've had a visit from these guys today. These guys today.
HMCTS.
Yeah. There's a daily occurrence. This is like every single day. There's a threat of some sort. You know, Patrick Coyle's had a really bad time recently, Lee. I called him because there was an incident in my garden and they were drilling and hammering, and he came. I let that hammering go on for half an hour, and then I called Patrick. I said, can you help me? He came and it took him an hour to get here, and then he found these men up on my roof hammering and drilling. So there's a video of him saying, oi, you stop, and they didn't stop, they just carried on. And then Patrick went up the ladder, my son followed him, and the guy at the top of the ladder tried to push Patrick off the ladder. My son was behind up the ladder, so at this point this guy attacked Patrick, tried to stop him going up on my roof to stop the drilling. And then Patrick's gone up to the top of my sort of second floor roof, flat roof, and the same guy who tried to throw Patrick over the ladder punched Amrit on the nose and broke his nose. The other guy was holding a hammer and a 2-meter metal spirit level on top of this guy who broke my son's nose. So my son said he was conscious of this hammer swinging at his head. So then when Patrick's gone to the top, the guy who was doing the drilling and this other blonde-haired guy had gone shooting up the roof and got Patrick in a headlock. And the guy who was drilling tripped Patrick over. They got him in a headlock and they were kicking and punching Patrick. So these 3 witness statements, mine, my son's and Patrick's, have gone to the police, Ilford police, with the video evidence. And they're saying that they're not going to accept our affidavits because they want to put the affidavits onto the police documents. And we have to go to the police station to sign it before they will take any action. So we were talking on the online global jury about doing these affidavits, you know. So here it's not even a civil matter, it's a criminal matter. And it's not even an assault, it's an attempted murder for 3 people.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, because this is not the first time they've done this. And it's been 3 years of police raids and helicopter raids and bailiffs. And before that, that's it. This my late sister's home. Before that, my own home, there was 4 years of it, so 7 years total. So we were talking about the online jury being of a way of ascertaining some kind of decision, so that we can then put that decision to the police and say this decision was made by this jury and the police must enforce it.
Yeah.
But then it got confusing because they were discussing about doing a claim form, putting in a claim form at some stage. But you know what trouble we had filing claims in the High Court, Lee? But Barry was saying that they've stopped the limit. You know, the limit for having claims above 25,000 had to go to the High Court.
Yeah.
He said that that's gone now. So the county courts are dealing with, or you can put online claims for any amount. I'm not sure. So there's an issue about making claims online, you know, but then when you're in an emergency and there's murder attempt, you don't have time to deal with the civil courts because they take years. And then your affidavit isn't going to, it's only really a claim when things have already happened. Now, when you have an emergency and there's a life and death situation, like you had a life and death situation, Lee, I mean, you're lucky to be alive, aren't you? You had
Correct.
cases against your council, Hackney Council.
That's correct. Yeah.
They did everything possible to try to kill you. Really, they let your place get mouldy, flooded. They put barricades outside with the scaffolding. There's drilling, noise, you know, and they put this scaffolding up but never used it, did they? And they're charging you services. Waste, and the lighting is on all the time, 24/7. They're charging you. And then when you trip over and you hurt yourself because the pavement is unsteady, you know, they haven't repaired they've left a dangerous pavement around.
There are holes in the pavements, that's right. And people have tripped over and they've broken their ankle, they've broken their arm. And then the other day, a dumpster truck came up to my house and dumped all this garbage on my lawn. Just dumped it, piles of it. It's all broken, what is it, wood, moldy, old, smelly wood. It stinks. And it's got Hackney Council printed on the side of the dumpster truck. So it's them, it's Hackney Council. And they did it to about 3 different people, but mine was the biggest pile. And then today, my neighbor ran out of her house screaming. She was so upset because the whole building was shaking and was pounding. And I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she said, oh, I'm ill from the pounding. Look at that. And I say, yeah. And I walked over to the Hackney Council truck that was illegally parked. And I asked the 2 employees sitting there doing nothing, I asked for their help. And they said, no, we're not going to help you. Go to your, we don't want to, we're not bothered. Just go to your estate manager. And I said, I did. And the woman, my neighbors, crying from the pounding because she's got babies and children and the noise is too loud.
Yeah, but Lee, I know you don't need to elaborate on, we've got to keep it
It's
to the
terrible
point.
what happened.
We'll keep it to the point, Lee, and we get the point. We don't need to elaborate.
It goes on.
The point I was making was that the Hackney Council will assassinate anybody who stands up to their corruption or tries to stop their corruption.
Correct.
They will kill. So we've got people who are trying to, you know, write off mortgages, write off council tax, and I've just said to them, it's very dangerous work. You know, that we know what happened to Patrick Cullinane, Julian Anthony Fernandez, Rita Taylor, Guy Taylor, Tom Crawford, you know, the people who've been made homeless for fighting corruption.
Cullinane as well, yeah. Patrick.
You know, it's a conveyor belt. They put you, if you stick out like a sore thumb, you want to be the hero. They will basically use you as a dartboard.
And that Irish lady, they attacked her with helicopters. They were dive bombing helicopters straight onto her. And she went to Patrick Cullinane's funeral in Ireland. And I think you recorded
Dorothy Gardner. Gardner.
Yeah, you actually recorded the conversation. I heard it. I was there on the conversation.
Oh, this was when they went in and
they
found
tried to murder her as well.
The dead corpse was not Patrick Cullinane, because Patrick Cullinane has a baby face and this man had a razor sharp nose and he looked nothing like Patrick.
But the point is, yeah, they're out to kill as many people as they can. That's the point.
And they're looking, aren't they? They're framing. They use these demonstrations to actually frame the real whistleblowers. So it's very dangerous. We realized a few years ago that demonstrations were dangerous places for real whistleblowers. And I'm not able to go now because the number of times we've had kidnap attempts on us, on the whistleblowers, you know.
That's
I mean,
right.
especially the Royal Courts of Justice, isn't that a place where they just pick up whistleblowers and disappear them on a daily basis? The security guards are there for that purpose. You've got police vans parked around the side in the car park.
They arrested Patterson twice from the High Court, and they also arrested Edward Ellis. They threw him onto the pavement. There were six security guards, and they just dumped him like a piece of old garbage. And also, remember, we were down at the protest at the embassy for Julian Assange, and the black policemen arrested you, and they arrested the American lady.
Christine Ann Sands.
Christine, they arrested her.
Yeah, and they locked us up for 4 days.
For 4 days, you were held in prison. Yeah, 4 days.
And that was trying to, you know, campaign for Julian Assange's release. And
at the Ecuadorian embassy.
So I realized then that the police are just, the people that are regulars for Julian Assange, they're not whistleblowers. They're just almost like, I don't even want to say it, but they're not whistleblowers for sure. And a lot of them have, you know, the mental health issues. They have to go to demonstrations as part of their rehabilitation. So they tend to be lifelong supporters whilst they're on mental health benefits. And, you know, they get free travel and free carers, and they kind of, a lot of them are Secret Service agents as well. They're infiltrated those regulars. I know that firsthand. It's very dangerous out there. But, you know, the council tax thing is, people are saying about, you know, doing commercial liens. You know, I did the commercial lien for 7 years ago, and that's when the raid started on me. I don't want these young people to, you know, have their doors broken, because that's what will happen.
Yeah.
You know, I think they should know that the risks involved. It's all very well doing paperwork and you know, going into all the theory of it, because in practice we're not within any laws. This is total lawlessness, and the way that the councils and the governments are behaving is totally above all laws. So there's no point in debating which law is more powerful when they're all above all laws. Crime is above all laws. It's not predictable.
There is a very effective remedy for council tax. It's very quick, and it's 100% proven by lots of people. What the common law researchers discovered was that if you get a limited company incorporated at Companies House as your name or as any other name, and then you contact the council saying, this is the occupant at this premise, and you have to charge the council tax to this limited company because it's a corporate dealing with a corporate. It's not, you can't, there is no proper equity in common law when you have a corporate that dictates as a tyrant to a human being. So you fix that problem by putting a corporate into your home, and that blocks them. It's the capital names, you know, the 2 Australian famous people, Stuart Romley, who's famous. He's made thousands and thousands of lectures to help people. He lives in Queensland. He was arrested by the police hundreds of times, more than you and me. He was put in prison. The police stole his car. They put him in prison. He is famous, that guy, and he has the remedies. He knows what to do. And he prophesized years ago what was going to happen in Australia. And now it's happened. The police are firing bullets point blank at people. They're shooting into people and killing people. People are losing their eyes. They're dying. And 12-year-old children, young girls, they're just grabbing, the police are grabbing at them, throwing them on the ground, and then jumping on them. 4 policemen are jumping on a 12-year-old girl for not wearing a mask. That's outrageous. It's absolute tyranny. Absolute. I would never dream that that would happen. But Stuart Romley predicted it. And his friend who made the videos, his name is, I can't remember, but the two of them, they were great. The service they did to ordinary Australians is immeasurable. I still watch some of their videos, actually.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's the theory of it. But what actually happens to the people who succeed in,
No, we've done it. We've succeeded. A limited
without persecution by the councils.
That's right. That's right. They never pay a penny. That's right. They block the council.
But do they have to keep moving about after a few years? They can't.
No. They stay there at that house.
But then they will just liquidate them. They will liquidate the company.
No. The council tax is charged against the limited company.
Yeah, but then once that limited company doesn't pay, they will eventually liquidate it.
Oh, they issue a summons against the company. That's right. A summons for non-payment of council tax.
Not everyone can stay in a house whilst all that is going on. With a threat, when the threat of it's a very short life. We're looking for something that is permanent. Like we talk about Swiss Indo, don't we, Lee?
Well, what it does, it pushes, it removes the liability of you having to pay that council tax for 2 years, and then what they do, they just create a new limited company for another 2 years. So that's given you 4
but
years.
Not everyone knows how to do that, and not everyone can take the stress of all that change. But once we know that it's inherently wrong,
I agree.
From Swiss Indo, we know the banking license expired in 2015. We know that we were meant to be in prosperity in 2013. We know that Mr. Sina went to United Nations in 2010 to try to stop this from getting as bad as it is. We know that the total global wealth is about $418 trillion. We know that Mr. Sina wishes or has already signed to confirm the settlement of $1 quintillion, which is 2,500 times more than what we're running right now. Imagine every pound in your pocket worth 2,500 in gold.
Yeah.
A pound or rupees or whatever, that much more. That is an established fact. When people find out that fiat currency is not more than gold, it's much less, it's been squeezed. And we're not going to cost them anything. It's just a revaluation of the fiat into gold, what it's worth.
That's right. Yeah.
Because of Mr. Sino's the gold, reserves warehouse in Indonesian caves and islands. So we've made a lot of progress with Swiss Indo regarding South Africa. And there's been a lot of arrests of the ministers, and apparently the president of South Africa was arrested about 3 months ago, Cyril Ramaphosa. So the mainstream media is not going to tell us that we did a grand job and we've got that close to Swiss Indo. They're just going to, like you say, Lee, the mainstream media is going to show that the army's firing bullets at the public, but actually the military's taken control of South Africa.
What the actual South African military have taken?
Well, it was the American, the American military, as Larry Swart said, in his quite a few of his talks that the American military via Germany has gone into South Africa to do all this, to take over the government.
So it's the American army that have taken control, right? Because Larry Swartz and other people, Fonse, they went to the House of Parliament, didn't they? And they stood there and they read a declaration, they read a notice, they gave them 7 days notice.
10 days, 2 weeks,
10 days,
10 working days.
To fix the problems of the nation. So, but they failed. They did not fix the problems of the nation. So that notice matured. And then what happened after it matured?
Well, this is all connected with Fanny Fonse's claim of the missing $700 quintillion from the South African Reserve Bank.
Yeah.
From one account, there were 33 missing accounts. It's just one of the accounts that Mr. Sino is the controller.
That's right.
So Mr. Sino, His Majesty, is the main gold guardian. He's he's in charge of the distribution of the gold, with the assistance of the U.S. Marshal and the paramilitary, committal paramilitary of Indonesia. So I'm guessing that that's the same people, same military that is in every country accessible through the US Marshal that is in South Africa right now, that looks after the gold in Indonesia, because Fanny Fonse's claim arose because Sam Muri, who is one of the CEOs of one of the central banks in Indonesia, he hired Fanny Fonse as a private investigator to find the missing funds, which I'm guessing that the missing funds were meant to be for the Indonesian people and the world, because Indonesia had to distribute all those funds. And because that, do you want to mute, Lee, this clicking noise?
Oh, sorry. Yes, no, carry on. Yeah.
So because 700 quintillion is a lot more than, you know, what we would have if we had 2,500 times more than what we got right now. That's with 1 quintillion. So 700 times that would make every £1 in our pocket equal to £1.5 million. It's ridiculous the amount of money they've squeezed out of us. So basically, that Fanny Fonse case, Lee, was the one where an agent of South African Reserve Bank bribed 50 million rand to a judge in England, in East London, as £5 million or something. And that agent then reported his crime in East London to the police in South Africa, and he has never been seen again, that man. So the issues are that, as Larry Swart has brought to the surface, are that the money that's missing in Indonesia for the rest of the world was disappeared by the South African Reserve Bank, because only one of the 33 missing accounts had 700 quintillion, for which belongs to humanity, from the South African Reserve Bank. So there's a lot of infighting going on, shall we say, that there are people pretending to be with Mr. Sino, and then they're sabotaging, and they think they could just set up some cryptocurrency and the accounts. Well, I think that when Mr. Sino was fraudulently jailed, framed by WKE, World Kingdom Empire, and by the World Central Bank, that World Central Bank .org has disappeared, by the way. So I'm sure that the war is going well for us. What was I saying?
You were saying that
they sabotaged Mr. Sino.
Was through South Africa.
They framed him. They framed him. They faked his signatures. They got him jailed, and I think that's why the money disappeared, Lee, because they thought they would, that 20 quadrillion
Yeah,
that went from Laos to IRS Minnesota in 2016.
that's right.
That had to be they tried to steal that, and I'm sure that the funds were zeroed because to stop them using it for criminal purposes, because they would use that to annihilate humanity. They would use our money to annihilate us. That's what they love to do.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a good thing that some of the funds are not available in IRS Minnesota, because that's where they started the murder of that the George Floyd
Yeah.
murder.
Which was a ritual enacted similar to the Mithras pagan cult used by the Roman soldiers 2,000 years ago. That exact same kneeling posture where they thrust the dagger into the throat of the bull, the poor animal, and it's evil. It's a death cult. They believe that in death, and they kill to feed evil, to feed. So what they believe, that Mithras religion cult, is that the soul of that animal feeds the devil. Basically, it empowers the devil. But it's what they're doing today is what they did 2,000 years ago. Basically, it's a reenactment, a continuation, and there are lots of these cults, extremists. They're all extreme people who have failed to do their research properly. They don't understand what they're into. A lot of these people are in, even those in Freemasonry, they don't even understand what Freemasonry is all about. They've never studied it. They don't know the meaning of the symbols, the colors, the diet.
Yeah, but let's just
really
say
stupid people
that our focus should be on our whistleblowers, shouldn't it? That are in prisons right now. I mean, Julian Assange, Sabine McNeill.
All the 200 corruption claimants, they're all whistleblowers.
Yeah, but the emergency is the death threats on my life and my home.
But you're a corruption claimant
every day.
Sure.
And who is fighting my corner? Who's actually going to stop the terrorism against a woman? Where are the men when a woman is being attacked? There aren't any. It's not allowed. The men are so scared, like they'll be killed. They're scared for their own lives. They can't protect women. And it's a free for all. It's been a free for all since 2000, since my baby niece.
Well, as you say, the best protection is exposure of the truth. Expose all their crimes, list them all out, and do a minimum. Like what I totally agree with you, Neelu, 100%. We should do online jury trials immediately. They only take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You can do a whole trial in 10 minutes. You just go bang, bang, bang. Here are the facts. Here is the evidence. Here are some of the arguments in defense. If there is a defense, and it can all be wrapped up, and then the jury just say yay or nay.
But Lee, my argument is that, okay, you're a living man, okay, so the living man versus Hackney Council, which is a dead entity, okay, so it's pure and simple who's right and who's wrong. There's no question that you're right and they're wrong.
But there are people behind that dead entity pulling the strings. It's the people, we know their names.
No, that's wrong. Do. That's wrong, Lee.
They're using the council to attack people.
No, but you see, there we're giving authority to the dead entity. We've got to be careful
The
Because
people.
if these people are in a job and they've been trained and they're following procedures and policies, they don't have ill intention. Then you cannot then get the man or the woman.
They're not following procedures. They're not. They're breaking.
But it's multi-agency ambush. You see, when you as a living man is attacked from all different, it's a timing. Timing is so crucial. It's the daily attacks, and they're coordinated, and they decide to kill you. It's this conspiracy to end your life prematurely is a corporate manslaughter, is corporate assassination on a daily basis against whistleblowers. It's the policies of the local authorities and the central government to annihilate us. That surely it's a principle that we can do collectively and say UK PLC gov.uk is dissolved because it's not enough evidence that the whistleblowers are being attacked. If a democracy is attacking its best people, that democracy is a dictatorship. It is a terrorist organization, and it cannot be legitimate. It's above all laws, and is committing crimes against its people. Under the oath to God, they can only serve and protect us. They cannot torture us and kill us, which is what they're doing. And I don't believe we need to do 1 million cases against each council.
That's correct. We don't.
We've got the proof.
Redbridge, your council, Ilford, Hackney, and maybe where
Barnet.
And Barnet, yeah, where Andrula lives, where her 6 children got stolen by DC Steve Martin and the Metropolitan Police.
Child abuse investigation team.
Exactly.
With Christopher Maitland and Stefan Kadek and the 94,500.
And they're perverts, they're convicted criminals.
And exactly. Videos and photos of these children. These children need rescuing, Lee. How can they put
they're suffering trauma? The kids are dysfunctional. They're suffering trauma from being attacked.
Where are they? They're not with
They're
their
only
parents.
9-year-old kids. They're little kids, 8 years old.
There could be babies brought from orphanages in a taxi from Heathrow
and
Airport.
They were hiding up underneath the bed and behind cabinets. The door was being smashed. It was being pounded, bang, bang, bang. And the kids ran for cover.
I think her youngest was 5, 6.
That's what Andrula said. It scared the hell. It scared the hell. The living
9 and 10.
Exactly.
It was like a year apart.
Exactly. And the police did that. The police caused this trauma, a mental trauma, a psychological trauma, emotional trauma, which they will never, ever recover from for the rest of their life. For the next 60 years that they live, they will never recover from that trauma.
And then, but these children, these 6 children were the ones that actually triggered the investigation against Stefan Kadek.
Yeah.
Because their name was on his email. It was on his emails, but then he also had this 94,500 images and videos of other children before them that was being investigated since the 2015.
Yeah.
They're still at large. These children are still at large being abused,
That's true.
And they need rescuing. That's the problem. How can this state of England and United Kingdom, gov.uk, be in denial of this fact that these children need rescuing?
Well, 2 of the children were sold as slaves into the international slavery trade, and they were exported like pieces of dog shit in crates to Cyprus. And when they arrived,
Lee, just be careful. Just be careful.
They were put into slavery to clean houses. That's what they're now doing in Cyprus.
Well, let's
they're
just
slaves
say
cleaning, mopping the floor, and they're slaves.
Well, let's just say they were witnesses of potential witnesses of a network that was being under police investigation. So that's how they
told. Yeah.
Edward tried to stop them. Four children. I believe it was 4 children that went abroad.
Edward tried to stop them.
Stop
That's
it.
right.
And Judge Porfley was involved with that as well. I phoned her.
Absolutely.
She
She's part
spoke
of
to
the
me.
criminal network. Yeah.
Anyway, Lee,
Remember,
so coming back to,
get
I mean,
paid.
you know, I just want to get
Millions.
people the kind of extent of the dangerous activities that go on in this country. Like I mentioned that the grandson of Desmond Tutu, that how we had to find him, and he was in mental health. Him and his mother were in transit at the Heathrow airport. They were picked up, and then he was put in mental health, and he was stabbed in the neck. So this is the kind of kidnapping that happens in England. If you're going through Heathrow airport, you're likely to be disappeared.
And he was only a young boy, about 14 years of age. Yeah, a young lad. Incredible.
Yeah, and then we had the case of Rita Taylor as well. Rita Taylor, who was helping advocacy. She was helping people how to go to the Queen's Bench Division and say you don't need to fill out any forms, you don't need to pay the fees.
Incredible.
And you know, that we're the masters and they're the slaves, kind of thing, and they have to do basically what we want because the corporation doesn't have any defense because we're the aggrieved party. And the Uniform Commercial Code notice of dishonor was that a living man and woman can't ever be aggrieved because they have to keep us in honor. They have to make sure that we're served and protected. And if we're in dishonor, then we just do the commercial link. We seize their assets, seize their trading, and we bankrupt them basically just by saying so. We don't have to go to any court.
Well, that's what the jury can do. It can decide to then sanction a commercial lien on people, make them personally liable, make the corporate entity personally liable. That's what the jury is there. And we're not restricted to 12 people. We can have 20, 30, 50 people.
But the minimum can be three good men and women, can be three, if it depends if it's,
you
know,
right.
But I think that we've got so much evidence, and I think that if we join up all the cases like Julian Assange and all the political prisoners cases, Wilfred Wong is a political prisoner, Sabine McNeill is definitely a political prisoner. England prisons are full of political prisoners. I mean, Barry Brooks was saying about 30% of the men were rich men who were being robbed. They were locked up in prison to be robbed of their assets.
Did you, I heard today that there are hundreds of women who are in prison because they haven't paid their BBC license. And they got
I'm sure they got beautiful
children. We're
children.
talking about hundreds of women.
Well, if they got beautiful children, Lee, they will use any excuse to lock them up. They will even extradite them for that.
For not paying like 50 quid on a stupid.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying, Lee. It is so dangerous.
Unbelievable.
It is so dangerous to even go down that road because of these. I mean, Sabine said I think she said 60 or 70% of the women in Bronzefield prison have had their children stolen and have been trafficked from Europe to Bronzefield just to steal their children.
That would be
and correct. It would be for petty excuses like that. And I really don't want to put families in danger because we're dealing with this terrorism.
Yeah. It's complete madness, complete total madness. And some of these women, they don't even own a television, and they're being prosecuted and criminally put in prison. They don't even own a television.
Well, that's what I mean about becoming a bullseye, Lee. If you try to do anything to this terrorist, they will shoot you dead there and then.
Dead, no, they do. If you walk down the pavement at Whitehall there, the police have shot hundreds of people dead on the pavement at Whitehall there.
Well, they shot that guy about the 7/7, didn't they? Fernandez, what was his name?
That's right. He was an electrician working for the underground. Yeah. because he had evidence, he had film evidence whereby he proved that the explosives were stuck underneath the carriages of the trains, ready and prepared for the event. So you've got all these, somebody put explosives under the flooring of the trains.
John Charles de Menezes, that's his name.
Right. And the people died. It was like an inside job. And he had evidence to prove that. So it wasn't the terrorists, the backpacks. They had nothing in the backpacks. They weren't carrying nothing. All the
and they were all of those accused were MI5. They were MI5 agents who'd been recently hired. One of them was an MI5 agent.
Right.
But the others were just newly hired, and they were just told it's a training exercise, don't worry. So they came in the pretense of making a video for the news, not realizing they'll all be shot dead by the end of the day. They were all shot dead, just like Jean-Charles de Menezes. And then Barry Brooks has got evidence about Jill Dando case, which is why he's being targeted.
Yeah. Oh, just watch the 7/7 Ripple Effect. It's a 3-hour documentary. The maker of the film spent 5 years heavily engaged in detailed research. Every timetable for every train was checked. Films were checked. Photographs. It was all checked, and he found anomalies in everything.
but surely, Lee, we can sum it up to say the BBC orchestrated it.
It was orchestrated. It was
all
propaganda.
false. We can also extrapolate to say all BBC news is false flag. We can say that all stories in the BBC are fake stories.
Absolutely.
We have to learn to extrapolate the information, because my story's not on the BBC, your story's not on the BBC. None of the people that we know have had their stories in the BBC, yet the BBC even put out Stefan Cadec and Stephen Maitland's. They did not say they worked for Barnet Child Abuse Investigation Team. They left that out, so they're in on it.
Yeah.
They said Christopher Maitland was in Plymouth somewhere, and Stefan Cadec, well, obviously, if Andrula's children were taken by Barnet Child Abuse Investigation Team officer DC Steve Martin, then surely Stefan Cadec, being the youth officer for her children, was in the same department, because both of them were locked up in prison for the same crimes.
Yeah.
So
it's like a tsunami of crimes. There are so many crimes. I mean, we can only mention maybe only 1%, not even 1% of all the crimes that these people, public officers, local authorities, governments are committing on a daily basis. We could go on and on for hours and hours, just repeating and explaining every crime.
But if we were to summarize, Lee, that we could
not even
say
1%.
This country, UK, United Kingdom, has been lawless, has been totally lawless, and the criminals are running it.
Exactly.
The whistleblowers are being targeted. The political prisoners like Julian Assange, Sabine McNeill, John Patterson, Melanie Shaw, they are just the example of the fact that the criminal empire is still running humanity. We're still enslaved. We're hostages on this planet. You and I have no value for our lives. We're treated like criminals. We're treated like targets of the state.
Yeah.
The best people are being assassinated on a daily basis, slowly but surely, by a multi-agency ambush.
Yeah.
Includes the police, especially the child trafficking police, are totally in charge of the judiciary and the councils and the central government. They're all under the gun control of that traffic the children. because those children have not been rescued. Those 94,500 children have not yet been rescued. And Great Ormond Street Hospital has a job there to do, to rehabilitate those children,
yeah,
and restitute them, so that all that you've described, their pain and suffering and nightmares, they need to be healed. They need to be sent on holidays, you know, with honourable people. They're going to give them a peaceful life for the rest of their life. The babies, the children, just a nightmare.
Well, that's why children get sick. You know, they're traumatized so much that they develop cancer and all manner of other diseases. And then, you know, they're forced to spend the last 2 weeks of their life suffering in agony in Great Ormond Street Hospital, where they die.
Oh, they're killed.
At age 7, you know, they're dead by the time they're 7 years of age.
When I worked in Cane Hill
Shocking.
Hospital, which was being shut down in the 1990s, early 90s, 1990, it was being shut down, and I had to go and get everybody off into the community. Most of them came off their medication, had to be weaned off. I had to go through the files to do their discharge reports. And there were a lot of pregnancies in that hospital, a lot of babies born from the patients getting raped by the staff. You wouldn't imagine that, the number of pregnancies in that place. So obviously they moved out from the mental health services into the primary schools and the NHS thereafter, the mainstream NHS, which is where my baby niece exposed the high death rates of children in 2000. And then we had the cases in the primary school, and Sabine McNeil and I were on trial for 6 days for standing outside this church. And subsequently, these 2 police officers have been jailed for the same thing, that we were accused of harassment. Me and Sabine were accused of harassing these people who have now been jailed. So the irony of it, Lee, is that the child abuse never existed. And they, instead of calling it, they call it downloading of images, but it's more than that. It's like, if you want to really know what's really going on, you need to go to, we mentioned Dorothy Gardner. She's the daughter and the granddaughter of Father Brandon Smith. And her mother was raped by him, and Dorothy Gardner was probably raped by him. And then they steal these babies, they use them as baby making factories, and then they say they're gay. They say, oh, she's gay. And that's the only way they can actually stop being abused, is if they say they're gay. So you have a gay community, people, we don't know how much, and they have this psychotherapy that wipes out their memories. So people will be in denial. No, that didn't happen to me, because they've had it all erased from their brain. So you've got very damaged people about, and they do a lot of talking. They talk and talk and talk about what they know, but they don't realize they've had psychotherapy to wipe it all out. What they really need to talk about is not there. So this is why we have a state of emergency, Lee. And I know you've had issues with your family. You've had a bereavement as well.
Mm.
That's why you've not been able to join us on the global online jury. But I think the other online global jury is going to be the administrators training, and they're going to use it as like kind of legal advice, whatever, common law advice. And then I'm still looking to set up the common law jury. I think Charles VII did try it, but we're not going to do it like, we're not going to call ourselves judges. We're just going to call ourselves members of the public. It's public petitioning. It's just, like they used to have the cart going in the villages to say, has anybody got any issues to deal with? And they would just say, roll up, yay, nay. what we're going to do with these people. I know it was a bit savage what they did do. They would chop people's heads off, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do it so that we get restitution and rehabilitation and compensation and peace and prosperity. We just want the Swiss Indo to take effect, which would basically dissolve all governments overnight, because at the moment the criminals are in power, disappearing and attacking and murdering whistleblowers. Then the majority of the people will have the wealth. The corporate hostages or slaves, should we say, these imposters, will have nothing. They'll be tried for their crimes against humanity by the common law juries to see who witnessed what and why were they silent. And they will be saying that they did not have ill intent. They were following policies and procedures, and we can't prosecute them criminally, but what we can do is take away their power over us, and they will be living away from us because they did wrong to us. They won't have any power over us, and they know that. They know they won't be part of our communities.
I'm sure this would be very popular amongst thousands of people if they knew or realized or understood the potentiality of the online jury and how effective it could be. There's a knock at my door. I'll just look through the peephole, but
sure.
How should we go about doing this? Can we do it quickly, Neelu? Could we implement it quickly? And
we need 12 people. We need 12 people, and we need to do it so that I could advertise it on Neelu Chaudhari on my Facebook, and people should just be able to come on without us saying it's going to be on this day at this time. We'll just, whenever we have a case, we'll just put it on, like to make a decision, and then we give that decision to the police to enforce it, because we'll say that a common law jury, online jury, has sat and decided this. We just need an affidavit from the jury foreman to say, like an order, this was decided and this needs enforcement. The police have to do it. I'll just see if I can pause recording or pause streaming.
Thank you. Thank you for your help. Have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So Lee's lost his brother in Australia, and he was in a home, and it was suspicious because his granddaughter was going to visit him frequently. I was just saying about your brother's death was suspicious.
Yeah, that's right. No, I agree that we should expose the truth, and we shouldn't have secret withholding, because that's how the local authorities survive. They keep everything a secret. The finances are a secret, and the policies, how they formulate the policies, because the policies don't work. The policies are geared to enslave people and waste money, because there are hundreds and hundreds of scaffolding platforms that go up 7 floors on buildings, and they're just left there for 3 or 4 months unmanned. In other words, I go by them every day and I take a photograph, and there's no workmen using the scaffolding. There are no workmen there. It's totally unused. So that means,
I think what you're saying is they're embezzling our money. It's called embezzling public money,
and
abusing the power of office.
Exactly.
They are committing treason because they've misprision of treason, because they're violating the oath to God to maintain God's laws, to serve and protect God's children. Exactly. Under the Uniform Commercial Code, the breach of contract was 1207, would then became 1308. and the 3503456 was the notice of dishonour and the seizure of their assets. So all that is there, but all I'm saying is, if anyone does, like Judge Steve Curry, Lee, he had a lien and he was put in jail for that.
Yeah, that's right.
And
No, I believe in full disclosure. Nothing should be hidden, but the government operates itself in secrecy. They keep everything to themselves. They don't allow people to engage with them, to alter policy.
but what happened, Lee? What happened was I put the link of the Zoom on my Facebook, and two guys came on. One of them said he couldn't show us, because the thing is, we say everyone has to show their face. And if somebody doesn't show their face, then we can't have them as a juror. And these two guys would not show their face. One said he had a fire. His face was destroyed in a fire. I didn't realize he was lying, but David Bradley knew he was lying. And the other guy put on a picture of himself completely in the nude on the Zoom. And so I had to switch it off.
Yeah. That's
so
bizarre. It's wrong what they did. Those
dangerous.
2 boys are wrong. Yeah.
It's dangerous, isn't it? So,
it's dangerous.
You know, we have to make sure everyone who comes, the video is on and they're not allowed to switch it off. That's one of the conditions. And they have to mute whilst they're not talking. And then we have to wait till there's 12 people there, and then we start with the cases.
I
we
think,
can, like you say, we can get through 10 cases in an hour, Lee. Like you say, it doesn't take long.
there should be a filter to filter out people who have, you know, a mental health problem or some other, you know, that they're not reasonable. They have
perverted.
to be more,
perverted.
Exactly. Yeah.
And psychopathic.
We only want just normal, ordinary day,
sadistic,
average people. We don't want weirdos and weird, you know, naked people. We don't want weird, you know, strange. We just want reasonable, everyday people, basically.
We want women. We want especially women. We want a majority, if not quite a lot of women, don't we?
That's right. That's right. At least 66% or 70% would be women, because women are more normal than a lot of men, and they're more reasonable. They're not going to take the mickey, you know. They're just going to be, you know, your everyday average type of person, basically, unless they have a serious mental illness of some kind. But yeah, I think that should be a filter there, actually, and it should be quick filter.
What happened was there was a lot of male kind of, you know, more men than women, and then we weren't getting on the platform with the actual cases, which is what I set it up for. So I started to call it the administrators training, because people need to have Zoom accounts to be the administrators, to hold the juries. I'm hoping millions of these juries will be held online, but people need to know what the format should be. So I want the format to be that anyone can bring a case to the table. They won't be part of the 12 juries. So if somebody has an online, a live case, say that somebody's 10-year-old's been stolen by the social services, then the mother would come and say, this has happened by these people on this day, and that judge in that court, and this is based on perjury, and I am the natural mother, and my natural child wants to be with the natural mother. And that was made clear to the social workers, and therefore the child was taken outside of consent and outside of law, and therefore that child must be returned. And the 12 jury decides that child must be returned, and that judge's order is basically overruled by the jury, and then the police have to enforce the return of that child to that mother on that day within 24 hours. And that's how quickly I wanted to start moving with the cases. But and because we've already had the 200 corruption cases, and the website is equitygovernance.uk, to see the horrors going on about the theft of homes, theft of children, theft of assets, theft of businesses, murders, kidnaps, false prosecutions, persecutions. It's actually
it's endless. It's an endless tsunami. Okay, can I say something, Neelu, about Kevin Arnett, because he did a common law trial the same as us, using the same procedures. He did it just 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a recent jury trial, and it was done in Belgium, and it was done thoroughly, properly, and in accordance to strict procedures. So why don't we follow that method? If leaving it open to the public, which is what we're doing, we can call that method A. What we're doing, we're being very generous and very liberal with everybody, and patient, very tolerant and patient, and leaving it open to whoever wants to join in, basically. Okay, if that method A wastes too much of our valuable time and we get nowhere, then what we'll do, we'll then proceed to method B, which is the same method that Kevin Arnett is using, which is exactly the same as A, but what we've done, we've closed the doors of generosity. We've locked the doors to people, to stop weirdos and wind up merchants and just complete idiots from ruining what we're trying to achieve. We want to protect, we have to protect what we're trying to achieve, which is a public service, and Kevin Arnett is providing an extremely high level quality public service. You won't get that kind of service anywhere. Not even the Supreme Court can match even 1% of that quality.
Yeah.
They cannot even get there. They are ignorant, primitive, idiot people.
Is this was it still called the International Tribunal for Crimes by Church and State?
It is. It's called that.
So he's called it the same. But so what was the decision that they made? What were they trying? Was it the Pope?
Yep, that's right. They laid out all the evidence, and they invited the Pope to attend the court to defend. But you see, what the Pope did, he is giving amnesty to pedophiles, to priests that are raping children. They're raping them in schools, they're raping them in hospitals, and they're doing so much damage. And the Pope, you see, these people should be in prison. But what the Pope is doing, he's sending airplanes out to these priests, these criminals, loading them all onto aircraft and then flying them back to Vatican City. And because Vatican City is a sovereign national state, he's giving them protection. So the police...
Is that what Kevin Arnett trial was about? So what did they decide then?
The police can't arrest these criminals.
So what did they decide?
Well, they decided that the Pope was guilty of protecting murderers and rapists and giving amnesty to criminals.
Well, he decided that previously with the previous Pope, and this one came along. But the thing is, it doesn't matter who the Pope is, they're going to carry on. They will only pick the Pope that's going to comply with it. So totally irrelevant. That really
That's
should
right.
be the position of the Pope. Should stop. It should be the position and that area, that square
That's right.
mile of the Vatican and the square mile of the City of London and the square mile of Washington D.C. should be taken back for humanity. We shouldn't
That's
have
right.
these amnesty areas of
That's true.
running this planet. They're running this planet from those three areas, aren't they? The Vatican is above the other two. People don't realize Vatican is controlling the Greada Treaty with USA and the reptilians was done through by the blessing of the Vatican. Therefore, it was like a hijack of humanity through the Vatican. That is a portal that they're using to sell us to the devil. They've already sold us to the devil since 1954. So people need to know that it's no good saying, oh, well, we've got this, the vaccine now. It's nothing to do with that. It's been going on for thousands of years, this war. And this war will end when you're mentally strong enough to realize that it's within you. The win is within you. You're God's creation. Your children are God's creation. Nobody can come anywhere near you. Yeah. And when you know that, these are criminals, satanic, they're cannibals, they're treasonous, that's when you win. Honestly, they will just create this hell for you until you realize that they can't do nothing to you.
Yeah. Well, don't forget that they laundry billions, trillions of dollars through the Vatican as well, because they've got their own banking system and currency. So, and weapons, armaments, they're laundering all of that. And because it's a sovereign state, the police are not allowed to go in there because it's a separate nation. It would be viewed as an invasion, even though they're committing crimes inside that separate nation.
But then the question arises, how did the Vatican have power over the 1930 bankruptcy of all countries? Because that was meant to stop all trading outside of gold. And they did it through the 1945, the loan agreement with the gold promised to keep us in honor. And then with their 70-year banking license, defaulted on it. The banks started charging interest on loans, which they're not allowed to do. They put us in debt that they're not allowed to do. And then they start stealing our homes and children on the excuse of these debts, which they're not allowed to do. So they were never allowed to do all of that.
Well, let's phrase together a question, and let's do it very diplomatically, which is, has the Vatican and the Pope and the cardinals, are they guilty of stealing money from Mr. Sino? Have they extracted money out of the bank accounts that belong to Mr. Sino? We are diplomatically phrasing that question.
Well, that is a big one to prove, because they keep it so invisible, don't they? Because the charities and the churches are where the crimes are committed against the babies and children. The orphanages, especially in India. And the population of India is such that, say in Kerala, you have 10,000 orphanages, and all the orphanages send their little babies and children to Kerala, which is like a port. And that's where they're selling the babies from. And then Karachi has another baby child trafficking brothel there that they go and buy children with. And they make out that these men that are buying these children, but actually it's the orphanages in India that acquire girls because of the dowry system. And in Karachi, they've acquired the girls under the pretense of marrying these old men. But these men sell those children on and on and on, because a baby can be sold for up to 10,000 to £1 million. But the mother is given 200 rupees, which is £2, if she puts her baby in a hole in the wall in the orphanage, because she can't afford the dowry. So the India has overlooked this problem. I'm sure Africa and China have the same problem, because a lot of babies born in China, because of the one-child policy, they would be terrified. Mothers would be terrified of having a second child, and so the whole humanity is criminalized normal births. They've criminalized having girls or babies, or more than one, and then we have to change all that, don't we? We have to make it normal to have big families again, and no fostering. God does not allow fostering, Lee. He does not permit it. There's enough family members would bring up your children. I mean, my late dad's mother died when he was 4. He was brought up by his grandmother, and he had so many aunts and uncles. He'd be traveling around all of them and staying wherever he wanted, you know. There's no such thing as fostering under God.
Yeah, that's right. It's always the family that care for the family. You don't get strangers to the family are more like commercial profiteers, or you know, free enterprise. They're going to make a profit out of the children.
And not only that, Lee, if you're going to
They're
pay
gonna
foster
sell them.
parents that amount of money, at least make sure the natural parents get that amount of money as well. So when we create our policies in our world with the Swiss Indo, everyone will have the same amount of money. There won't be any fostering, because the children will have their own money coming in.
Which is
they won't commodities. They won't be used as commodities, like to get a housing or get single parent housing. Like parents fight for their children. The policies, the state policies, and the system is so twisted that it is satanic policies that break up families and use children as commodities. That's the saddest thing about the state system of the world right now. Satanic system.
Yeah.
It's been going on for 1 hour 20 minutes, Lee. I'm sure you're tired. I'm really tired. So
I think a lot of very important, you know, issues have been addressed, you know, in the 1.5 hours. And I think the next step is still keep the option of plan A open. But if the general public take the piss and they ruin it, then what the filters will be there to stop these people from wasting our time. We only want serious people who want to help us get remedy for victims. You know, there are millions and millions of victims who are in pain, who are suffering, who are asking for our help, basically. You know, and we're doing it for free. It's not a business. We're not getting paid. You know, we're giving our time freely. You know, we could be doing a million other things with our time.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, we're just volunteers. We're not experts. You know, we're not trained in this. You know, we're just trying to help, you know, through charity. We're just being charitable to the community and giving back, really. And that's,
I don't like to use the word charity, Lee, because
I
when
know
my baby niece died, the charity commission would not make hers a charity. They would refuse the Baby Senena campaign. They refused it as a charity. So then I knew they were only doing really criminal work.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've witnessed the poisoning and total abuse of English language and words. Like when they use the word pandemic, that's a total misuse. Anyway, there's a lot I can say about that. And charity, they've poisoned it completely, and a lot of other words. So what we'll do is try it for a few more days. Plan A. If plan A no longer works, then we'll go to plan B.
So plan A is the online, getting anybody to join.
Anybody
at
can
any
join.
time at short notice. People need to be ready.
Exactly.
The case they would bring their cases on. They could have their
Exactly.
cases ready when we go online. They bring their case on. We hear cases and we deal with the cases every 10 minutes.
Exactly. And then we make a decision immediately. And a defense can be given, obviously. But if people ruin that method, then we'll use a different method. We'll go to plan B. And if plan B gets ruined for whatever reason, then we'll go to plan C. So, it's best to be flexible. It's best.
Between you and me, Lee, can we just agree that there are children that are known to the criminal justice system to be in danger in the prosecutions of Stephen Caddick and Christopher Maitland from 2016 and 2017? And until the UK state rescues those children, acknowledges that this is a problem in this country, because it's okay saying they downloaded these images, but wherever these children are, they could be in England, they could be anywhere in the world, we need those children rescued. And we need to know where these images and videos were made. Who made those? That's a massive investigation that these two criminal convictions invoke those rescues. And the Children's Hospital at Great Ormond Street has a mandate to head the rescue.
Yeah.
And all children's hospitals around the world have to be doing this in coordination. But people don't have any faith in that hospital because it's a charitable hospital, and the charities have a secret, what do you call it? A memorandum of understanding that they're not allowed to speak out. It's like the Pope. They're not allowed to make the Pope guilty of anything. They will criminally cover it up. So
that's right.
People have to realize that we've got enough evidence. We really can make a lot of decisions in a very short time. But all the decisions are out there anyway. If anyone uses their common sense and does enough research, it's all out there. What Barnet Child Abuse Investigation Team is all about.
That's right. I think the public are wise enough and experienced enough, and they witness so many daily crimes themselves in their workplace, on the roads, wherever they are, that they are, conducting their own ongoing trial themselves, amongst their own friends, wherever they might be. I mean, there's a massive pandemic of spiked drinks, apparently, in bars and clubs and so on. And lots of women are being raped now and murdered, and they're putting drugs into drinks.
Well, that's been going on forever. That's, the abuse of women is like, it's totally twisted in the media. They always demonize the women, don't they? They always say that women dress provocatively and the women behave in certain ways. But the men, it's usually a criminal cover-up of some kind of a cult in the area, and they have to make out the women get raped, justifiably, and they don't actually say this is pedophilia going on in a big way. The children from children's homes, they'll lie about all the stories, and we don't ever get the truth. There's no point in even going with what they put out, Lee, honestly. It's not worth putting our mind. We've had very limited energy and attention span in a day, and we should preserve our energy for the truth that you and I know of the depth of the criminal cover-ups on a daily basis by all public servants. They're not going to let that go easily, and we have enough evidence to knock it. For the release of all the political prisoners, Julian Assange, Sabine McNeill, John Patterson, they need to be honoured for what they've done for the children and the babies. because the banking system is connected with the children's abuse. The poverty is a link between poverty and accruing babies and children for this corporate structure to torture them and use them as slaves. It's about slavery of the most beautiful, most talented, most intelligent children, the most loved children. That's what it's about. And the women are tortured for all their life from birth till death. So okay. Well, thanks for spending your time with me today, Lee. I was really down after getting frustrated with the other thing.
Well, that's a very good description you gave, Neelu. I think that's very, very wise, and it's very clever, because the Catholic Church have created a system that they're continually supplied with free children to do whatever they want to do with the children. In other words, they've created thousands of schools, Roman Catholic schools, in every country throughout America, Canada, Australia, and look at the millions of children that are funneled and pumped through these Catholic schools. You know, and the priests are there doing whatever they want. They have authority over these children.
And then these priests are protected by the Pope in the Vatican.
Protected. And the police,
because of the jurisdiction, is above
by the judges.
Alien jurisdiction. It's above all jurisdictions on earth.
Exactly.
So surely we can't have these 1 mile squared jurisdictions that are alien on this planet, can we? Surely we can decide 12 people. Well, you say Kevin Annett has already decided they can't have a Pope doing that. So that means we're free. That means we're free from that jurisdiction of the Pope and the paedophiles and the priests and the charities. We're free from it all.
That's right. He dissolved it. That jury trial actually dissolved that whole corporate structure of the Catholic Church.
Good.
And the jury trial, the jury members issued arrest warrants.
Good.
That's
exactly what I wanted, Lee. That's exactly what I wanted.
Everybody in the Catholic Church, they were all put under arrest, basically. If they were guilty of those crimes, then it's like an automatic arrest warrant. There's no further trial needed. It's just an automatic triggering of arrest.
Yeah. So we can be 100% sure now that Swiss Indo will be invoked, now that this resistance from this child trafficking Vatican is now removed. We can now be sure that was the last obstruction, wasn't it? To keep the poverty and the banks in checks.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great news, isn't it? Fantastic news that Kevin Annett did it.
And it's published as well. That it's on YouTube. You can watch. It's only 5 minutes. That's all it is. It's him sitting there for 5 minutes talking. The link is there.
Wow.
And it's amazing. It's really, really worth watching.
Wow. Okay, I'll do that, Lee.
And also he talks about the children in the church schools that were murdered and raped, and their bodies were buried.
Yeah, we know all about that. It wasn't just, I mean, Kevin is the one who told me that his research in India was that, it wasn't just North America, it was India, Africa, China as well, with the boarding schools. We're going back a few hundred years, and all the royal families were told, send your children to boarding schools, but they were always abused and raped and all that, to steal their DNA. So we know all that. So thank you, Lee. Thanks for that. And
so I think there are good people there. I know Leona, Sylvia, and loads of other people. They want to be part of that jury trial, and they're good people, and Andy Devine and all of those people, Abdul Sattar, and they're trustworthy.
But if Kevin Annett has done it, Lee, if he's taken the top, the invisible eye from the top of the pyramid, he's removed it.
That's
if he's
right.
removed it, then we're free, aren't we? We're free from the corporate structure because they were putting the lid on it.
Yeah.
That's where the assassins were getting paid to kill us all, wasn't it? Because the banking system and the prison service and all the councils and local government, central governments, all under the control of the charities and the churches.
That's right, because it comes under they call it ecclesiastical law, but that's just a fancy name.
That law was when the churches were used as courts.
That's correct.
That law went out the window. That's when correct. I think was it 1830, 35, was it? 1835 that, or is it, I don't know, 1865, one of those two. That the 1649 Act for the Promotion and Propagation of the Gospel of Jesus Christ was used as the kind of foundation for setting up these children's boarding schools and the churches and the charities. And then they had brought this law in that the churches would be used for courts, because previously in India, the gods were kings and kings were gods. So the kings' palaces were the courts. So all the decisions were made in palaces. Now they brought that jurisdiction into the churches. That's when they started killing the judges of the countries, the honorable judges, when they had to make all these decisions in the church. So the church then became the court above the courts. The courts are now just puppet courts under the church.
That's right. The ancient Romans 2,000 years ago, they had the Senate, and they had a similar structure to what they have in America now, the Congress and the Senate. And they published all these different laws, Roman pagan laws. And that's what the Catholic Church took. They stole that intellectual property and tumble washed it through their washing machines to turn it into ecclesiastical stuff.
But the only problem there was, Lee, the big problem there was that Jesus, in the years of 13 to 30, it doesn't say where he was. He was with the Hindus in the Himalayas with the Brahmins. Yeah. He was a Hindu, and they didn't want that because the God was, we are gods. They didn't want the connection between us being gods. We are gods, right? We're God's children.
That's right.
If we're God's children, we are gods. See, the oath to God to maintain God's laws, to serve and protect God's children makes us gods. They did not want us to know that we're gods.
That's right. Yeah.
So they took out that bit that Jesus was a Hindu who know their gods. Hindus know their gods because they are the direct descendants of Krishna, Rama, and Shiva. We are Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, so what they call the Holy Trinity. We are the creator, sustainer, and the destroyer. They call it the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. They get it totally the wrong way around. And so the church hijacked Hinduism, called it a myth, said that not to worship the idols, because they didn't want to give really Jesus a credit. When you share the bread and you dip it in the water down the steps, that's what you do in the Ganges. And then Jesus never died on the cross. He went to India. His body's in Kashmir. He's an old man. He was in his 80s when he died. They don't tell you all of that. So that's where the Christianity hijacked our divinity, totally made us into slaves, to fear God, do as you're told, don't do this, don't do that, God will punish you. God does not punish you. He says free will, just do whatever you can create through the heart, through the love. Nobody can get punished. None of us can get punished. Only if we're sadistic and evil, then we get punished. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then we have to be, anyone sadistic and evil, they have to be removed from the planet. They cannot live on this planet. This planet is God's planet for God's children and God's laws, isn't it?
It's true. But what the Catholics did was they deceived everybody by saying that you can only talk to God through a priest, a Catholic priest.
That you have to go and confess to this priest who's then going to come and rape you and steal your children.
That we're disconnected from God. I've never heard such a ridiculous statement. That's what they believe, the Catholics. How stupid can you get? That's absolute nonsense.
If people are whistleblowers, they still go to church, Lee. They still don't realize that they're spies. They're full of snakes and spies in the churches. That they just want your downfall. They don't believe in fighting the corruption. They just want to comply, and they want more slaves. They want vulnerable people. They actually recruit people, give them jobs through the church.
Yeah.
And
job creation scheme for the priests.
It's deception, isn't it?
Deception.
It's deception.
It's a deception. Yeah. It's brainwashing and programming completely. And
but it is the satanic structurally, because the slavery and the slave mastery is satanic, and the Christianity is based on fearing God.
They've reversed it around.
And it's actually all this act for the promotion, propagation of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's a satanic, and the taking out Jesus was a Hindu, out the Bible, taking out that he didn't die on the cross, taking out that he died in old age. All that people actually want to believe. They wear this cross and they say that Jesus died for my sins. They think it's okay to commit sins because Jesus already died for your sins, This is how they justify it.
Yeah.
Well, he never died on the cross for anybody's sins.
Exactly. But that's how perverted they are, and they don't allow a priest to be married and have children. How ridiculous.
Yeah, but they can father 500 children, Lee, nonetheless, by raping little girls in orphanages.
And they don't allow women to be a priest either, which is well,
a lot of the nuns are little babies who've been raped for life, and then they become nuns, and people think they're virgins, and they're not. They're mass raped. They've had 10 children taken off them, and it's horrific. Their life is horrific.
It is. Well, there was a famous book called The Devils of Loudun, and that's a famous book that was written that described what was really going on, what was hidden. And it is a complete nightmare. The last 2,000 years of history has been a complete nightmare. So dysfunctional, and so that's why the human race is in such deep trouble now. We've had 2,000 years of it going wrong, and just kept veering off and off and off, that it would take, it's taking a miracle to realign everything back to a natural order.
But we've done so much work, Lee. We've worked so hard. Nobody's going to give us a certificate or a medal for what we've achieved.
We're not.
And we have done it. We've actually gone past the finishing line, and we've proved that honourable people can live in peace and prosperity on this planet without these sadists and satanists and cannibals. We don't need them. We're not going to try and fix them. We don't require their services. We can manage quite well without them. This whole planet is full of resources that we can utilize through the heart and share them. Sorry, Lee, my neck is hurting so badly.
Yeah,
I've got myself
it's
up.
good. No, it's good. It's good what you're saying, and it's true, and it's unfortunate that these three places that have of 1 square mile each. Washington, DC, square mile, and London and Vatican. They have so much money and so much influence, and they're so heavily programmed and indoctrinated. Sadly, they won't relinquish without a fight. They won't relinquish their control and their power. And
well, if we could just know our divinity, Lee, they would disappear.
Assume authority.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving them any authority whatsoever.
But if we knew our divinity, Lee, they would dissolve tomorrow. Just they would disappear. If only we knew we were gods.
Yeah.
And we're not slaves, and we don't need to be afraid of a dead entity.
Yeah.
Because they're not serving and protecting us, so we have no use for them. We don't require their services.
But there's 2 million very asleep people, 1.2 billion people who are totally asleep and are totally brainwashed. That's what gives them the power. If those people weren't awake, and they started researching and they started investigating and learning for real, then the Pope would not have that power. The Vatican.
But that's already gone. That's 3 days ago. That's gone. That
it was dissolved.
We've done with that, because it should have been done without Kevin, and it should have been, realized by now that.
But the sleeping people remain. They're still there, and they're still asleep. That's the
They're not going to let go. Yeah. Well, so we just turn around, do 180 degrees about turn, and walk the other way. We don't, we can create something from nothing.
They are waking up. I mean, more and more, people are rapidly waking up. They really are, and realizing what's going on. But it is a long, slow process.
Yeah. Okay, Lee. Well, I must, I guess, rest now.
Same with the Muslim religion. There's 1.2 sleeping billion Muslims.
They were all created by the British Empire. They were created by the British.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't even know their own history. They've never researched it properly.
Well, I know 300 million of them were made on the 14th of August 1947, when the border of India and Pakistan was created.
That's
and
right.
I know that the place where I come from, Lahore, was the capital of the whole India, and it was the place where they came to study the law and the logic. It was called logic at the time. It was common sense. There was never any need for law. And when later on it became criminal law, that there was never any civil law, no need for any laws that was civil, and no need for corporations when it was only man to man. It was only human to human that there was any grievance, and the communities knew how to sort it out.
Yeah.
The community leaders would sit down, husband, wife problems, children custody problems, theft of children, everything got sorted there and then. There was no need for any courts. The kings did it. So okay.
But before the Second World War was engineered and managed by secret hands and secret minds, the CIA was setting up the Wahadi family in Saudi Arabia to be their agent, and they took over control of Saudi Arabia.
That happened. Well, Gandhi mentioned that. I've seen Gandhi mention that, because on the 15th of August 1947 was that India was declared independent. Then 9 months gestation was the creation of that border between Israel and Palestine, 15th of May 1948. And it was something to do with putting, there was Christian, Muslims and Jews created with that border, and it was trafficking the Jews went to Israel and the Saudis went to Palestine. There's something about the Saudis to do with that border with Israel. There was some
Yeah.
connection there. And it was
Yeah.
all orchestrated by the British, Lee. You know, this
Right.
act for the promotion, propagation of the gospel of Jesus Christ was a satanic churches, charities, and the New England Company.org
But
is behind it.
it's also to grab and steal the valuable resources of the planet, the minerals, the gold. So they took control of the gold mines, the oil mines, you know, all the mining, basically.
Well, their intention was to destroy us, Lee, to make us homeless. I mean, my family's been made homeless like so many times, every 300 years.
Yeah.
And then recently, every 50 years, we've been made homeless. So
Yeah.
every one of us, Lee, you're a royal as well. Your family's been scattered as well. You're a huge family of royals. And, you know, every whistleblower is from a very big royal family. We're not allowed to have legitimate children. That's when the illegitimate children of the royals were made into kings and queens so that they could be controlled and held as hostages. Most kings and queens are hostages under the Vatican, aren't they? The Vatican controls them.
Yeah.
And then they're hostages.
But it's also the misuse. Like these are God's gifts to the planet. And what greedy corporates have done, they've snatched all these valuable, precious, natural gifts from God, like oil, gold, uranium.
Well. Let's just say when the Swiss
And
Indo
they've
comes
polluted
in,
the planet. No, they've
when the
polluted
Swiss
the planet.
when the Swiss Indo comes in, all borders will dissolve overnight. All resources will belong equally to everybody. And don't forget, we'll have the advanced technologies. We'll have anti-gravity. We don't need fuel. We don't need petrol or oil. We've got magnets. The magnets will fly at 50,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
You know, these mercury magnets or whatever they are, these balls that go round and round.
But it explains Extinction Rebellion. You see, they're all up there in Scotland at the moment for 2 weeks, like Boris Johnson's up there, the German Chancellor's up there in Scotland.
Well, these are just false flags, aren't they? They're just set up by the government, aren't they?
It's a theatre, a Shakespearean theatre.
Really, the BBC need props, don't they? They need Muppets, puppets, monkeys, props, and clowns, and
they're just complaining about pollution. That's all they're doing. They're not doing anything else. They're not giving any remedies.
Lee, we're still going live, so can we round up now? Because I'm really,
they're not
really
solving
tired.
problems. They're just wasting our time, and they're still killing the planet. Extinction Rebellion isn't going to save the planet.
No, they're
not
Lee,
going to save nothing.
Lee, you and I are the real.
They're
You and
stupid
I are the real deal. People need to listen to us because we've got experience of decades of fighting.
Well, remedy. We want real remedy, basically. Yeah.
Honestly, people don't use our wisdom. They're going to have to repeat our mistakes, and that's going to put everybody back by 20 years. And we don't want that. We're just so close to it. Kevin Annett's done it. We should be celebrating right now because of what, you know, but then we've been there before. Kevin Annett's done that before. So what's
did
different?
In 2013, he did that already, which is like that's 8 years ago. He did that in 2013.
But let's hope this is it, Lee. Let's hope this is the final wave and this is a tsunami that we've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So so until next time then.
Has this been recorded? Can you save this recording from being deleted?
This has gone to my YouTube channel at VPC1111.
So it can't be deleted. Nobody can ruin it, destroy it.
No, let's pray, Lee. Let's pray that I can download this and put it up on my Facebook as well. So if I hang up now,
okay.
So we say goodbye. Thanks very much, Lee, for coming on in this down and out hour for me. Thanks a lot with my half self here.
Okay.
And pray your brother's soul is in peace and you connect with him soon.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I'm sure he'll be busy doing your work, helping you with your work. Okay, thanks.
He enjoyed my work, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed his work as well. He was a great farmer,
Anti-corruption. Yeah,
and
it runs in your family, like mine.
he knew about all the pollution, and he tried to stop the poisoning of Australia. He tried to stop it, but the government is so tyrannical and militant, hostile to people, that he was overpowered, basically.
Yeah, that's
It's
what they do
shocking.
to all of us.
It's shocking what's happening in Australia. It's just,
Yeah, you said earlier. So okay, then bye for now, Lee.